Hello, at Cornell Amplification again today, looking at the sights, sounds and smells as usual, not of the amplifiers. We're using these amplifiers to show us different configurations, so you're not going to hear the amplifiers as in the other videos where we're looking at the sound of the amplifiers. What we are actually looking at is this. This is the little Cornell pedal. It is called the switcher. It is an AB switch, but it's an AB switch with a little bit of a difference, and it can be used in many applications. I'm going to show the different configurations, and there is a text version of this on the website as well if you want to refer to it, but I'll be doing my best to show you how best to use this little pedal. Okay, in the first configuration, I'm not using the effects at the moment that you can see on the floor. This AB switch, the switcher, is going into a Studio 20 and a Voyager 20. I'm just using the single one of the channels, obviously, on the Studio 20, and the Voyager 20 obviously only has one channel. But I've set them up so they've got different sounds, just so you can hear the difference between the switch between the guitars. So to give you a little bit of an indicator. So there you go, just switching between two different amplifiers is the first setup. Okay, in this configuration we're starting to play with some effects. Now basically what I've got the setup here is the guitar is going into the AB, the Cornell switcher pedal. It's coming out of the A into the overdrive and the digital delay pedal that you can see here, and the other one's going into the distortion, into the chorus. Now we're using two-way cable here, which is referred to as a Y cable or 2-to-1 or whatever you want to call it. Some people even use mixing discs for this particular configuration, but I'm just using a simple wire cable at the moment, and we're going into just the single channel of the Studio 20. Now I've set these up so that you've got delay and overdrive on, and you've got chorus on that signal route. Now basically this is, you know, again for live performances, and also if you use multi-effects and stuff, then, you know, just basically imagine using two separate multi-effects and you can get, you know, thousands, almost infinite different sound setups and bits and pieces. But the important thing really with this is that, you know, instead of having to sort of turn a chorus off and then turn a super overdrive on and a delay pedal on mid-change or whatever it may be for a guitar solo or whatever it is, you can just do this with one click on the switcher pedal. So just to give you an example of that. So this is the chorus, as you can hear, and then I'll switch over to the overdrive and delay. Okay, in this configuration I'm using the switcher pedal going into the Studio 20. We're not using the Voyager in this example. Basically the guitar is going straight into the switcher pedal, and then that is going into the two independent channels that you have. So there's two separate inputs on the Studio 20. Look at the Studio 20 video for more information about that. But basically a lot of people, you know, will look at this amplifier and go, it hasn't got a channel switch. The reason for that is that basically it will add to the weight, the cost, etc., etc., and everything else, and then you're tied to a channel switching pedal, whereas the switcher pedal can be used in that configuration. So just to give you a little bit of a sound with this, just basically going to switch between two distinctive sounds. I've got it set up at two different sounds. Okay, so here we have a very similar setup to the effects going into two separate amplifiers. All we're doing is we're just doing exactly the same thing, same setup on the pedals, chorus on one channel, overdrive and delay on the other, going into the two separate channels of the Studio 20. So just give you an indication. Okay, so this is one of the configurations that other switch pedals, AB switch pedals, will not do, or if they do, you need to make sure that they tell you you can do them, because you can damage your equipment if you mess around with it. And the reason for that is because the guitar is going directly into the amplifier here. We're not actually putting the guitar into the pedal here at all. And then what we're doing at the back of the amplifier, so the output, the speaker output, is going in to the AB switch. And then out of A and B, they're going to separate cabinets. Now, this is, where one of the sort of areas with the switch pedal which sort of differentiates it apart is that it can absorb that. It can actually manage that quietly and safely, more importantly, because obviously the output of this has got to go somewhere, and that needs to tell it where to go, but at the same time it doesn't want to go to two places at once, otherwise that will just cause a disaster. But ultimately, basically what you've got here is the opportunity to play from one sound, one head, again effects, I'll show those in a minute as well, into independent speaker cabinets, but ultimately you've got this whole sort of configuration where you can switch between two cabinets. The question some people might go is why? And the reason for that is because, what is the difference between a 4x12, a 2x12, a 1x12, a 1x10, 2x10, etc., etc. You get tone differences and a different sort of frequency range from different speakers. So you might actually want, some people actually go, oh, I really like that combo, and I really like this combo, so I'll buy both combos and then I'll just switch between the two. In this case, you won't need to. You can just have the one head and two different separate cabinets as you wish. But importantly, you can switch between the two. So from this perspective, I'm just going to play, no changes of settings on the guitar, just going to switch from the 212, which you'll hear in a minute, and then to the 112. And you can hear the difference there, and it's quite significant in the sense it's exactly the same settings, exactly the same amplifier, but going from a 2x12 sound into a 1x12 sound. It gives you that sort of sharper, harder edge when you're going into a single 112 cabinet. Okay, just a quick demo really with the same configuration. We're going into one channel of the amplifier, and we're coming out of the amplifier into the switch pedal, out of the switch pedal into two separate cabinets, a 2x12 and a 1x12, and I've just put effects in the mix here. So basically the guitar is going into the overdrive, delay, out into the amplifier. Just to give you a little bit of a sound difference between the two amplifiers with an overdriven sort of sound. Again, obviously you can just switch between the two and add multiple effects or multi-effects or whatever you wish in this setup. Between a 2x12, just playing fifths and giving that sort of tight bottom end, but again this one's a little bit brighter because you've got two speakers, remember, so you're sort of doubling up on the frequencies, and this one is essentially a little bit tighter because you've got just that single 1x12. And you can do a combination of this. Again, you know, some people like to mix and match between, you know, a 1x10, for example, gives you an even tighter, thicker sort of mid-range, and then flipping to a 212 will give you that nice sort of clean musical sound, for example. Okay, in this one we're using two Telecasters, but I've got them on different pickup settings, but you know, in the real world, if you've got two guitars, you might have two guitars for different reasons. You might have a 335 Gibson or Les Paul or something, and a Strat versus vice versa, whatever, for different songs and changeovers. It could even be that you have a spare guitar that you want hooked up ready when you break a string or whatever it may be. Now what I've done here is again, it's almost using the switcher pedal in reverse. So the guitars are going into the outputs of the pedal. I've put them in each guitar's got separate effects linked to them, but the effects are not on at the moment. I'll just play the guitars first so you can hear it. And then the output of signal, which is coming out of the input of the switcher pedal, is going into the amplifier. Again, we're just using one channel on the amplifier. And there, you know, again, it can be, you know, you want to switch guitars because you want a different sound, you know, or different effects on a completely different guitar. So just to give you an indication of this, I'm not going to play it. I'll save you from my playing now. So all I'm going to do is just just strum the guitar, just so you can hear it. And then this one isn't on, you can't hear it. It's just it. And then switch it over, and then you've got that one is off, and this one is on. And again, with the effects, so you could put, for example, on this one, I'll just put a delay. And on the black and white one, I will put a chorus. So you can, for example, just with those two Telecasters in two opposite settings, one's on the bridge, one's on the neck, one's got chorus, one's got delay, and again you can hear it switches between the two guitars. So on the actual text version of the configurations for the switcher pedal, you'll see images where I'm using, I believe, a Fender Strat with Gibson 335s, you know, sort of different sounds completely as guitars, but going into the same amplifier with a switch pedal and possibly different effects for each one gives you a multitude of opportunities and sounds that you can actually use more creatively in a live environment. That's the main thing really with the switcher pedal. In all of the configurations that I've been going through in this video, it's actually making life easier for live performances, because if you've got two separate effects set up, whether they're multi-effects or individual analog effects like I've been using today, going into one amplifier, instead of doing a tap dance like you know, people tend to do when they're switching over on those pedals, you can just literally set each effect spray up however you wish, and then when you want to go from clean to lead, you can just hit one pedal, one switch, and that's it. You don't have to turn things off and on and so on and so forth. But also, you know, the major point of this pedal is the configuration inside it, which is why, you know, as I said in the previous video about, you know, when you're linking one amp head to separate cabinets, the actual wiring and configuration of this pedal is different to others, and you need to ensure that you don't try a lot of these configurations with other pedals. That's it. Thanks for listening.